We've pretty much done with the processes page now, and it's finally time to move on to the main thing of this application, and that's the home page. I've mocked something up here in Affinity. So this is almost what we want the home page to look like. It always changes slightly when you go into creating the actual code and linking things in with the real world. But this is as far as I want to take the mock-up, and I think it's now time to try and create this. So on the left side, we have what will become the same drop-down as the processes. It will be the actions list of things we want to do on a SolidWorks file. And then on the right, we need to pull in all the files from SolidWorks, which will require us to connect to another application we'll make in Avalonia that talks to SolidWorks. I may and probably will flip these two around though, because I think on the left, we probably want to see the list of SolidWorks files. And on the right, which is a progression, the things we're then going to do to them files. So I think it makes sense to flip these around. But for the drop-down UI that we've done in Affinity, this is good enough. So let's just start fleshing out the homepage. So we know we want it looking something similar to this. We need to basically have a list with some checkboxes, some things here, but I don't think we're going to get that far anyway for today, because if we look, we don't actually have anything in the home view model or the home page. I mean, it's not even the right thing yet. So we have a homepage view model which just has the string test in, and if we look at the homepage, we have nothing at all. So we've really got to, I guess, get this page up to scratch with all the other pages. So as always, let's start in the top here, and we'll change the width and height, which is 900 height, and I think it was 100 for the width, and this is just for the viewer here. We can zoom that out a bit. And then we also want the VM, so we want the XML namespace for view models, and this will be batch process 3.viewModels. That allows us to access the view models. Next, we want to just set up the background and foreground as we do for all of them, just for visual. So dynamic, resource, primary background and foreground. And this is just for the designer, because this would get naturally overridden when we come to do it in embedding it into the page, but it's still good to have this representation as accurate as possible. And then finally, we want to set the data type for binding. So this is basically going to tell the view what the data context type is, so that we can then bind to, obviously, a homepage view model. Now, it doesn't do the binding for us. This just tells the page what to expect. So that if we then did something like a text block and text and binding, you can see it's going to presume that the data context is a homepage view model because of this here, the data type. I think that's it for the headers. And now for the innards, we want to design time context for the data context. This means in this designer, when the app isn't running, what are we going to do for the data context? That's going to be now the VM homepage view model. This will then call a parameterless constructor on the homepage view model. So if we look, we have a parameterless constructor, so we can construct it at the minute. And then we have a thing called test, so we should be able to bind to test as an example. So if we did a text block with text and binding of test, it should find that in the IntelliSense, and it should also do it over here, which if we zoomed in, you could see it does actually say, actually says home. So if we compile, that should say, oh, is that what we put in the test? Yeah, we put test and then we bound it to the word home. So if we did like home with a 2 in the middle and recompiled, this would update. There we go. So we know binding is working, which is good. Next, we'd want to make this look like all the other pages. So if we took a look in, let's say, the actions page view model, and we have at the start, we have all these. Oh, I'll tell you what, let's do the process page view model. That's a bit more new. We have the header and main row, and that is the top header that says like process and things. And then inside the main view here, they've got 3 columns. So we want to copy pretty much this, but we don't want the 3 columns. We'll add a grid close and then we'll redo the grid. So if we go into here, remove this, paste this in and close off the grid, we should have then at least just a header. And we can see there, now we can fit that in a bit more, and we have this little header that we want. And that's pretty much the same. We'll make a new background for it. So we'll obviously make the little dog bones change for the homepage, but for now we're not too bothered about the smaller details. We want to flesh out the whole application as a whole. Because we are going to have the right-click menu, that's what we made it for in the last video. Let's also copy that style. We could move this style into a shared place, but for now we'll just paste it into the top like the other for how small it is and what it does. And we'll also comment this to just say remove padding from flyouts. Copy that note over to this one as well. And let's also start commenting this a little bit more in the XAML. We've kind of got lax on that and not really commented much recently. So this will be the design time view model. And it definitely helps in XAML because XAML can be very easily hard to follow if you stop doing comments. So we really should have been doing that more throughout this process. So for the title, instead of putting like home and things like that, we don't want that to be home. We want this main banner to represent the currently active model in SolidWorks. So for now, or the connection status where we're at. So for now, I'm just going to put the static word no connection. We'll bind this into the view model once we get that far, but that's a little bit away at the minute. So I'm not going to bother trying to bind this because we've got no idea how that's going to look yet, even in the view model side of things. The description can then say something like, connect to an instance of SolidWorks to begin. So now let's form what was originally the 3-column grid, if you will. So this is going to be the a 2-column grid in this case. So we'll do a padding. Well, actually, we'll just say padding in this case. We don't need to give it anything else because we have that initial grid. This can go on the second row of this current header and main. So this is now the main section, the second row. And we just want to put the padding of 25, I think it was. Let's just double check. Where is it? In here. Yeah, so we'll actually rename that to padding. So it's a bit more obvious that it's just padding. Yeah, 25. And that just gives us that inset on the main area inside of here, so it's not right up against the edge. And then in here, we are going to do 2 main columns, not 3 in this instance. So this can be a grid, and it will be column definitions. We'll have, I don't know the sizing at the minute, let's do a 3x2, so out of like a full percentage, the star means if we do this, for example, 3 star 3, both of these are going to be equally weighted in the same size. If we do this, this will be as a percentage slightly less because obviously it adds up the 5s, divides it by 5s, and this gets 2/5, and this gets, this gets 3/5, and this gets 2/5, and this is just a static figure for padding in between the 2 columns. So if we then just showed grid lines, you could see that inside of here. So it's not that obvious till you fill it out with things, but you can see this right side column is slightly smaller than the left. If we made them even at 3:3, you'd have a perfectly 50-50 split. I think we probably want the other way around actually, because we're going to move, this will be the SolidWorks list, so you don't need it to be that big because it's just the names. But this side wants to be bigger because the actions might need more details. So for now, we'll leave it as a slight size difference, or let's start at 50-50 and see where we go. But we can always adjust that. Either way, at the minute, we know the main layout is going to be 2 columns. So next, we don't know what we're putting in. Well, we do actually. We know what we're putting in the left. It's going to be the SolidWorks list. So even though we don't have anything for that list at the minute, we can make the UI for it. We know roughly what it's going to look like. So we'll want, again, a grid. This will go on the left side. Rows, we're going to put in some stuff. So at the minute, just some text, padding, text, padding. We don't really know what we're putting in yet, so we'll just do a few universal autos and 10s and fill at the bottom. And then it just gives us a bunch of rows we can make use of with padding in between. And then we can always go back and edit this. So let's start with whatever we do on these. So this is a label and a text block. That's a good start. Put that in there. And at the minute, we haven't closed off the other grid. So let's do that. And we want to see something in here, and we're currently not. So why are we not seeing something in here? Because it's complaining. Input string, oh, that's because it said row instead of row definitions. There we go. So now we can see on the left we have currently saying processes. This will say SolidWorks files. And then in the text, we will put, select and edit the list below of all SolidWorks files we want to run the actions on. I think that'll do. And yeah, I think this wants to be slightly smaller. So let's make that a 2.3. I don't even think we need it to be that big. Mind you, no, we will want this to be larger actually, because we're going to have that fly out preview. But we just want to limit this text block's width, I think. I think we just don't want that to be that long. So I'll just do width of, say 200, horizontal alignment left. So maybe 300, yeah, that's nice. So this is the SolidWorks, well, we can call this the header and description maybe, or the title and description. And now underneath this, at the minute we had it in the preview, if we open that preview back up, and if you look on the right side on ours, we'd want a few buttons for the ability to add a file directly, a SolidWorks file, a folder to scan, or the current model that's open. We'd also want this flyer, which will move to the right side of details, so we're not going to get that far yet on there. And we want this list. So again, because we don't have the view model at all yet, I don't want to go too far into the UI because we don't really know for sure where we're going with it. So the only thing I'll probably do in here for now is just put a list box, just so we have something a bit more visual on screen. So this will be the SolidWorks files list, or list box even. And then we can do, I guess, a list box. This will be grid.row. So we've used 2 for the title and the text. So 0, 1, 2, 3. This will be 4. And then 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 is auto. So for now, let's actually move it to 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's move it to 6 just to fill up the remaining space. And that'll just expand. And that's literally it. I'm not even going to fill that or bind it. That's just a bit of a visual. There's obviously a lot more to add to this, but that gives us somewhere to go in terms of the UI. We've got a basic UI going, and we've got at least the front end XAML. So now let's flush out the homepage view model. So we remove this string at the start. We'll put a region in ready for the members, which is going to be all the dependency injected stuff this will need. We can probably just mostly copy the maybe process page view model to grab some members, say. So these are all going to be common members that we want. Database service, dialog service main view model, which is the parent effectively for other things. And we probably will need to, thinking about it, the process page view model has all of that code. Where are we? Somewhere in here. Properties, is it? Here we go. Why couldn't I see this? Oh, it's in a collapse initialize. So in the process page view model, we're doing all this logic to generate ultimately an available actions list, but this available actions list, so kind of all this code up to there, all this really is to generate an available actions list, and we need that list in the homepage view model when we right click. So we are likely going to need to move this out to its own class as well. So we'll probably come back to that. But that is definitely something we're going to need. So let's just bear that in mind. Next up, we'll want some properties. So these will be the view model bound properties. And we know we will want the available actions list. It's pretty much the only thing at the minute, to be honest, we know we want. So let's just copy the available actions list, process list. Actually, we'll want a process list as well. Is it the process list though? Or is it, no, it's not the process list, it's going to be the action. So we know we will want a list of actions. We'll want to observe everything. So we'll want to nick this and place it into here. And this will be the actions list that will populate when we select a process. It will then pre-populate the actions list. That's all we care about. But do we actually care about anything else? Description, ID, job name. No, we don't care about anything else. So we can just use the inner actions list as the thing we care about. And now we also want the available actions list for things that can be added to that actions list. So I think they're a given. That's the list that's now going to be on the right, which is going to be pre-populated with a set of actions when we select a predefined process. And then when we right click, we want to populate this thing. So now let's move on to constructor. That's next up on the order here. We need to remove the parameterless constructor. This is where it gets messy at the minute. Well, I say messy, we've cleaned this up multiple times, but this is where we have to do like an initialize here if we want the design time to pick up the details. So we're pretty much going to copy the entire constructor from here, paste it in, and then fix it, like, edit it for what we need. So region constructor, end region, paste this in, design term constructor. So first thing is rename these, import the missing exceptions, and now process page. This has got to move as a base and cut that out. And home page view model wants to be a page view model still, but in the constructor, we've already got it here. Constructor the base, we just need to change that to home. And then now we want the main view model dialog and database still, so that all stays the same. The initialize then will pass in the same. This will get the same, that'll set up. And now in here we can set up what we need. So we're not going to have a selectable process list, so that can all go. This now would be the available actions, which you can see is starting to become a massive copy and paste. So all that now is repeatable code. So that's what we don't want. So that's what we'll have to fix after. Process list.fetch, we don't have the process list now. Design time view model, it generates a new view. If it's not in design time, it complains. On design time constructor, initializes a new one. So that will be okay now to initialize available actions list, although we need to move that to some kind of shared class, and we don't populate the actions yet. So this should compile. Yep, which it has. Now we could, what we'll do probably is, I know it's not going to be this list, but we could slap that in there. Let's make another list on the other side. Again, the UI is going to change, but let's copy and paste this, call this the actions list. This can be in grid.column, and this will be 2, and that'll move it over to the other side. And then this will be the actions list. And then here we'll say select the actions and the order in which to run them on the SolidWorks files. And this one, I don't think we care about restricting the width, maybe. No, I'm fine with that looking like that. On the SolidWorks files, though, we'll have probably buttons here and things, so let's leave that like that. Or, to be honest, they don't look even now, just for visual. They're going to change anyway, so let's do that. And now we have here, this can be the actions list. So we can populate this now, at least with something so we can see. If we want it to look like the, well, we don't really care too much, do we, about the right-click menu. Let's just do a copy from the process page again. So we've got a process list. It's more about the available actions list, isn't it? That's what we want to probably copy it from. Available actions list. So we'll just take the, well, we'll take the entire list, to be honest, copy that over. And then in here, we just got to remember grid.row6. So we paste the list box over, change that to grid.row6. already populated with information. So that must already be running the code behind and working. So that's bound to the available actions list, which is actually happens to be named exactly the same. Then all the themes the same, so it shows these headers and things. We've got buttons. So when you select them, we've got buttons appearing, but we don't care about that. We're going to, obviously this isn't what's going to appear in this list. We just wanted to check if the binding was working. So we'll delete the button and just leave that in for now. So we know already from doing that that this code is running, because what will happen is we'll get the design time constructor here. This will check that we're in design time, and it's happy that we're in design time. So it's going to run this, which is the main constructor up here. This one. It's going to pass in just a bunch of newed up view models and services, which are good enough to still call and fetch the database. Calls into initialize, does all this, and this then fetches the list here from the database, and that's why it then appears. So the binding's all good, but we want to now remove this duplicate code. So we need to make this really a service. This entire thing here to fetch available actions is a service. Now it's not, even though it's going to return view models, these will return data models, or will they? No, even these will these will return data models in the database service. Then this little helper here will return view models, and then the view models will get combined. Now, just because it's making view models doesn't necessarily mean it needs to be a view model. This is an instance where this can be a service, but the service would live in the, if you were going to split this application up and have a more, split up application, if this got bigger, and you were separating the UI from the backend code, in which case here we're not, because the UI view models are in the same application core, because it's Avalonia. That's the benefit. The UI never needs to be split. This is pretty much always going to be our UI. So we don't really have to think about splitting, ultimately, something that's messing with view models and something that's a service, and keeping them separate, because they live in the same place in the application and always will. So we'll make this an actions service or something. We'll give it a name. So we'll make a folder and call it actions. In here, we'll just make something simple called an action service. So we're not going to overthink this at all. We can either call it actions service or action service. I'm going to call it action service, actually. In here, it's going to need access to the database. So it's 100% going to need the database service. I don't think it's going to need anything else. But if it does, we can obviously add it here. And then we just need a single class, or a single method rather. So public, what are we returning? An observable collection of available action view models. And that will be the thing we bind to. And this can be called get available actions. And you can say get available action view models because it's more specific. I don't think we need to pass anything in. Or instead of saying view models in there, we can just say get available actions list, I think. It's your preference what you want to call it. This we should just be able to go to the homepage view model, cut pretty much from here down to here, and then we just need to redo available actions list equals. So we'll do available actions list equals, and then we'll come back to that. In here we'll paste in. Now we have a list, available actions. This can all stay the same. All this code can, which ironically, at one place we were calling it without the underscore, and at another we were calling it with. And we never noticed that. So we'll fix that up now. That'll fetch all the items, and then here we'll just return instead of doing that. Return new. This probably wants us to just, specify the type explicitly. And that should be it, I think. So now in order to access that actions list, thanks to dependency injection, this is super easy. Just go anywhere, go here, collection.add. We can do singleton, we can do transient. I'm going to do a transient, just get reused every time. Action service. And that's it. And then because obviously the constructor asks for a database service and that's already injected, that will work. So now we can just go to the homepage view model. In the members, let's make an action service. in the, it will have to bubble this a few times just because of the way this constructor is now, but in here we'll have an action service. That will have to pass into the initialize, which will be an action service. The initialize will have to accept that. That's getting a bit big now, so let's put that on new lines as well. This wants to now be an action service. The available actions then in initialize is going to now be the action service dot get available actions list. These constructors now for design time need to also new up the new action service, and that needs a new database service, and that needs a new application context. So again, a bit messy, but this is purely design time code, so clean enough, simple enough to do. And now if we've done that right, the home page should still show that list, which it does, even though it's now two separate bits of code, one from a service, one from the process page. So in the process page now, in here, this has been pulled in with the code in its constructor, but in the home page, this has been pulled in through the service. So we should just be able to pass that code over now to the process page view model and do the same thing. So we'll want pretty much to copy and paste the other way this time now. We can copy from our home page, paste into here, and then we did it in the, well, we might as well type it at this point, but we'll paste this in, add it there, add it there, and there. And then we want to delete all of this and keep the process list, but here now we want to do the available actions list equals action service.get list. And then the same will copy that into there and there. And I think that's it. So now we should have cleaned all that code up into an action service. So it's now reusable between the two view models. So some people might say in this instance where you could find the available actions list and you're in the home page, and then a lot of the confusion comes when people say, well, how do I access between two view models? And they'd want to, in the home page, access the process page just to access the property on it. And that's where you're kind of thinking about the view models a little bit wrong, because we aren't going, how can we access the process page? We're looking at simply how the process page constructs the information we want. And if it's a shareable bit of information, you should really have a service that fetches the same information. So the view models aren't sharing data as such that, like, this list is independent of this list, so they can be open at the same time, but they ultimately fetch from the same service. You can share data between view models, you just inject them like this, but a lot of people will end up having view models that just bind to every other view model to fetch their properties instead of making services that get the information they need. So I think that was quite painless. Nothing really went wrong this time. This just builds and runs, and we haven't even had any errors. I know it's fairly simple though. All we've really done is moved this and made this a shareable thing. We can now probably, I think we said we were going to keep the right click on here anyway, but now in the home, we'd originally have a drop down here when we come to do it that selects one of these items in this list on the side. And when you select this, it pre-populates the available list with these actions. And then, obviously this is a completely the wrong item. This is showing the drop-down menu. But that's what will happen. We'll have a drop-down that we can select this process set from. So you can say, like here, process 2. And then this could have, say, one of these and just save. So the drop-down in here would have an option for new process or process 2. And depending on which one you clicked, it would then fill this list in. And then from this list, we can right-click to add. And we'll probably change it as well, so you can delete things, drag and drop things, right-click to add. So even though you can select a pre-done list of actions, you can still flexibly then customize it just on the fly in case you just want to make a one-off job and you don't want to have to go into here, make a new process, drag all these over, give it a name, save it, go back, just for the sake of running a few actions that you know you want to run. So we want that double flexibility. But that's it for this one, guys. We've done quite well there. And I think next up, we will obviously carry on with the homepage, making this actions list an actual selectable drop down from here first, what we just discussed.